Hello! What an amazing movie. The filmmaking team behind Sentimental Value, Joachim Trier, Eskil Vogt.
Thank you so much.
I love this movie so much. It's such a beautiful, beautiful film. I want to start in a very obvious place, kind of the origin story. You guys are coming off of Worst Person in the World, which was such a success. I mean, I think it's one of the best films of this century. And the weight on your shoulders must have been so big in terms of like what to do next. What should we do next? How did you deal with that, and how did you end up here? How did you decide, that this was going to be your next film? Was Marvel calling? Was,
No. I mean, we sat, as always, Eskil and I, in the writing room, and trying to think of the next idea, and feeling a bit of pressure, and procrastinating a lot. And what we do then, of course, is to go on YouTube and look at Trailers from Hell with Larry Karaszewski. So getting stoked on what cinema can be, and seeing that masterpieces are sometimes overseen, can be comforting when you're writing a new piece and thinking, maybe they won't get this one until years later when Larry picks it up. So there's hope in that. But no, seriously, I think also we try to talk about siblings and parents and children, and we both have kids now, even me. Finally had some kids and enjoyed this wonderful thing, and we end up having a lot of personal conversations when we write, and to try to find an original way to speak about all the stuff we don't know how to speak about in family life, and to try to see if we can find some sort of cinematic form to express that. I think that's kind of where we started understanding that we were going in a certain direction. Is this right, Eskil?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we when we start working together, we just try to clear our schedule of everything, and we might have some ideas we bring into the writing room, but we're never sure what the next film is going to be. We start working together before we have a precise idea. But we knew we had an ambition of doing something about sisters, and we wanted to work together again. We're not arranged from Worst Person. So that was something we had quite early, but we didn't know if that was going to be the film. So we add stuff where, like you made a joke about watching Trailers from Hell stuff, but that's true. We do a lot of stuff. Like writers know, procrastination is a part of.
I mean, as a member of the writer's team, it's like, you get in there early in the morning and leave like 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night, but you don't actually work until about 6:15. Because you guys play music in the room and everything like that, right?
All the time.
All the time. And we also have a couch and a bookshelf full of film magazines and books. So between the personal conversations on the couch and the cinematic admiration of the past, we try to find something.
And we also, it's true what you say after Worst Person, there was a lot of ideas of what we should do and what would be smart to do, but I don't think after a few weeks or months in the writing room, we're just happy to find something we want to do. It's not like we can choose between 10 stuff we're equally passionate about. At one point the film chooses you in a way, and you don't really have a choice. And I can remember us deciding on this idea, and it's always a kind of an important moment for us when we say, okay, this is the one this time, and we were thinking maybe we really enjoyed The Worst Person of having a very young audience embracing that film, and when we decided on this idea, we thought maybe we would lose some of those, because this is it kind of goes a little bit, I wouldn't say deeper, but it's more mature, these themes, in a way. It's not about young people finding their way. And so we thought, okay, maybe we have to say goodbye to part of the audience, maybe that's...
Well, it's interesting. You think that because you are parents now, that you were able to look at life from both sides, in a sense, from the kid's point of view and the parent point of view?
certainly, that's one part of it, but it's also about trying to be some half-sane parent. You have to think about what you transfer to your kids unconsciously, and thinking then about, and life has its own natural mechanism of psychoanalysis when you get kids. You have to like identify with your kids and find the kid in yourself and re-question what your parents were, and even realizing that they were maybe kids that didn't get everything they needed and all of that stuff, which this is also about generational trauma, and I think it's interesting. It's just something that I think came up a lot, thinking about how to do the impossible task of creating perfect people out of your kids, and realizing that you have to settle with good enough, and that's the human thing. And I think the last film, Good Enough in Love, was kind of, now it's good enough in family, that this striving for perfection and control doesn't always lead us to the best solutions.
Well, what's kind of interesting to me, though, is that it is about a family, and it is sister, father, daughter, but it's also about art and an artist, and it's almost about and if I would say what this movie's kind of about, it's about a father who rediscovers his daughters and his family through making art. Is that what you guys were going for? Is that
Sure, that's a very important part of it, and I think we've spent so much time now in our lives dealing with how the creative and paradoxical way affect life and the other way around, and also the kind of false dichotomy of the life-work balance as an artist. All the myths about the impossible creative parents that maltreated children. I know that has happened for sure. But I'm also a third-generation filmmaker. My grandfather was a filmmaker. My parents were making films. So I grew up with people, observing them cope with life, dealing with issues through being creative. Right. My grandfather was during the Second World War in a work camp during Nazi-occupied Norway at that time during the Second World War, and after the war he started playing jazz music, and then he turned into a filmmaker and tried to make jazz films. Wow. And the son ended up in Cannes in 1960 with a film called The Hunt, and the French called it New Wave, and he said, "Oh, it's a jazz movie." I've always thought about that. And you see kids that dance and sing and tell jokes when they feel uncomfortable, or if they're happy, it can be both. So there is that idea that creativity isn't just a profession. It's actually something that humans do on some fundamental level to find a yearn for a different type of communication or expression. So we were ashamed to make a film about filmmaking, but here we are.
But you actually, it's funny actually, you brought up your family and your background in filmmaking. You started really early, like you had a Super 8 camera, didn't you? You filmed your family. In a weird way, you recorded on cassette and you recorded on Super 8. You were reinterpreting your family as you were growing up.
Sure. Yeah, completely. I remember having a cassette player and recording my parents arguing, playing back. Revenge.
How did you two meet?
Well, we met in our teens, and we both had a job at Norwegian television, taking care of the cables during a live quiz show. Okay. It was a very silly job because the cameras hardly moved. We had a lot of breaks. And in Norwegian television, it's very hierarchical. You have a break, you don't have it with the camera people, you have it with the other assistants. And I looked at Joachim, knowing I would spend a lot of time with this guy, we would spend all our breaks together, and he was just like at the end of his skating period, and he had like the widest pants I've ever seen. And I was the more like Doc Martens black Levi's type.
He had the tightest jeans I've ever seen.
I think you're exaggerating the tightness of the jeans compared to yours.
He knows what he remembers.
But so I looked at this is going to be a tough job, and then we realized we both want to make films. We liked a lot of the same films, and he knew more about Fellini films than I did, and I knew more about American independent films.
But I read somewhere where you had like an amazing VHS collection.
I did.
No. He had Hal Hartley introduced me to. You know?
Yeah.
Remember how
I
great American filmmaker?
I have taped stuff in Swedish television. Anton Egojan's early films.
I remember. Yeah, and Peter Greenway. Remember Peter Greenway? Of course you do. Yes, no, and then we both liked the French New Wave.
And Brian Palm.
And yeah.
Was there any films that you watched when you were in pre-production or when you were writing this that you're sort of looking for inspiration, or any movies that you would say connect you to this stuff?
I think looking back, yeah, a lot of inspiration. We don't usually look at specific films for that, but of course, Age of Innocence.
Oh wow.
I would say Uzu, the Japanese Uzu, family stories, looking at the listener in the family, rather like the young sister Agnes here. To me, is a bit of a Uzu-inspired character.
Yeah, but also with this Age of Innocence and also it's also about the architecture, the place, and the way that's filmed, and the layers of history in Age of Innocence, or the way interiors are filmed in music films. That was inspiring.
Yeah, and specifically at Scola did a film called La Familia, which is about an apartment building going through some time and family and stuff. But again, you don't want to rip stuff off. And Hannah and her sisters.
Yeah.
You know.
Sure.
So there's a lot of,
Mazursky maybe even.
Paul Mazursky. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. No, you know, local. Good filmmaker.
Comes around the corner. Well, it's funny you're talking about the listening. I mean, what I really admire about your guys' work and your screenplays and your directing is silence. Is like so much like Americans do on our movies. We yabba all the time. You guys seem to really take time to like just, at least on film, just watch faces. And it's a lot of times it's about blocking. It's all about like how one person's here, one person's there, and you're getting the narrative from that. My question to you particularly would be, how do you get that on the page before it's there?
Good question. I mean, I think we write thinking that this will be said.
Cut.
And there will be actors doing this. You know, it's not about the page. It's about what you see on the screen. So it's very. I mean, I try always not to overwrite the dialogue. I try to keep it simple and sometimes even banal. Because good film dialogue is that you can say hello with a million different intentions, and you know exactly what that person wants to say, what the person feels, you know. So trying to keep it simple when it should be simple, and not trying to be vain in the way you write. And also we keep it a little bit loose, a little bit open. So yeah, and also thinking that we like when people start talking. And also, some dialogue is not important. You know, it's there because people need to behave, and dialogue is part of behaving. But what's really happening is something else that the camera can show, or the reactions can show.
Yeah, I think the behavioral is always trumps kind of what you don't want the dialogue to tell too much story, really. And I think we also get rid of a lot of dialogue during the shoot, because some of it is there to support, and sometimes it turns into something wonderful. Behavioral.
Yeah.
You know, it's just interesting to see them avoid stuff by talking about something else and all that whole thing. But there's a scene, for example, in the film that we talked about that we were very happy with. It's actually one of the most positive scenes, the only positive scene, except for the final end between Nora and Gustav, the father and the old daughter, when they're smoking a cigarette at the kind of midway point in the film, when we have the big birthday celebration for the young kid, you know, and I think everything works there without dialogue. We wrote some dialogue for that moment, but we didn't need it. You know? But the intention is what's important in the writing process, that each scene has the dynamic and purpose that can guide the actors to an experience that creates a sense of life there in that moment, more than, at least the kind of films we do. We're not after like smart dialogue necessarily. Other people do it.
We had a joke for that moment, I remember. The joke, I think, was
the mother-in-law.
The mother-in-law that she talks to and gives like a hug when he enters the room. He says when they're smoking, he says like, I think she really likes me. And then Renato's character says, you're not going to sleep with her, are you that? And then they laugh, and then they continue smoking. And I like that joke. It's a fun joke, but I'm not the kind of writer who cries when they take that out in the edit. Because I can see how nice it is to just observe them smoking.
There's
Let him
something.
have his jokes. Okay?
Yeah, no, I'm saying.
Thank you, Larry.
Next time, let him have his
Yeah, I know. No, there's enough jokes in there.
Are there?
More in the next one. So,
From Netflix got a big laugh.
oh, good. Someone asked me here, right before I came on, I did an interview actually, and said, are you taking the piss out of Netflix? And no, it's encouragement. The show is in the theater.
You do a lot of rehearsal? You do rehearsal?
Sure, yeah, but we call it rehearsals so that we have like a budget line that we can afford. But what it really is hanging out and creating trust and setting it up. I don't do table reads because I don't want the actors to do like fake pretending towards each other when they're insecure and stuff. So we do pairings. So we build a relationship between Gustav and the youngest sister. So they know each other. So then when I bring Renata in, she feels a bit on the outside. And they know how to use that. And then we tape it all, I film it all, show it to Eskil, and then we can tailor the dialogue a bit. And it also gives, as an example, we wrote Agnes, the young sister, maybe more smilingly avoidant to try to make everyone feel happy. And then we cast Inga, who's a fantastic actor, but her grounded sincerity shifted the character slightly. We didn't really rewrite it a lot, but we
didn't need to, just intentionally.
Exactly, but as a character she changed. And for me to film that and realize that and show it to Eskil and have, that camaraderie of him looking at that, but we can still maybe change that and that. And that's a way of integrating everything so that we are all collaborating properly. I like that.
Talk a little bit about casting. The cast is insanely great in this film.
Thank you.
Yeah, Skarsgård. How did Skarsgård get involved with it?
So the two people we wrote for was Renata early. We knew, we explained to her what we wanted to do early, and she accepted and was intrigued. So we knew we had her. And then very quickly, when we discovered the difficult father character, we wanted Skarsgård. He's acted in more than 150 films. He's done stage work all the way back to Bergman. He's worked with Ingmar Bergman. He's, in my view, one of the greatest modern actors that we have. So I didn't know him. Neither of us did. So we
were kind of, a while there, we were kind of, well, a lot of actors can do this role. Like we're trying to convince ourselves that there was other choices. But we knew as the writing progressed that it had to be him, and we didn't know him. So we had no idea if he was doing the Star Wars and the Dune and
he was our Conan, dude.
And so it was a very nervous thing when Joachim reached out to him, because we had no backup.
And now he tells this joke like, I was waiting for him to call me. I'm not sure that's true, but I support that. I like that idea. Anyway, we met at lunch. I did a weird pitch, and then I'm kind of begging him, and he accepted it.
Did you base it on a filmmaker at all?
We try to avoid that, but he's not Bergman because he seems to hate theater. But more sort of Eastern European inspired, and it was more about.
He worked with Milos, and so when I first saw this movie, I was like, oh my god, it felt like Milos. Just that very comfortableness he has in his own skins, and yet he's also kind of a genius in watching people at all times. It's kind of,
Oh, that's interesting.
How did Elle get involved? And I think she's incredible in this film. I actually think it's the hardest part in this movie because it's so easy for that role to go wrong in terms of it's so easy to make it more
Like a
comical.
parody or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I
The
agree.
Hollywood star who ends up in this movie, and you think when she gets the accent and things like this, it's one of those things where, but you never, I mean, it's crazy, you know, you never feel like you're making, you're making fun, or you always feel her. You feel like her as a real human being. So,
No, she's an extremely good actor.
Yeah.
I mean, to act crying when she's performing in one way, and then towards the end when she's genuinely vulnerable and breaks away from the film in a very different way. I mean, you see, it's a meta conversation going on with the audience about what performance is, what representation of grief is and stuff that she's doing just intuitively. She has the experience of a much, much older actor, like, even though she's still quite young, she's acted since she was a child. And actually, LA local, Mike Mills, a good friend of mine, said, we were talking about good actors of that generation, and he worked with them on 20th Century Women. So I met her, and she was perfect.
and Inga, who I mean, she's a discovery probably for most people in this audience. Where does she come from? She's also incredible.
She's done some acting, but she's basically, Norway's a small country, and there aren't that many films made. And so she was working at the time as a teacher in like a young people's acting school, and she came into audition, and she's just incredible. And we immediately, Maria Aker was our producer here, and she was like, "Oh my God, we have her!" We were all super excited, but I needed some time to get to know her first. But we finally found out. Also because I was taking her, and not to diminish her craft at all, but she hadn't had experience of working exactly with this, Stellan Skarsgård, fan. So I just wanted to make sure she felt okay, and she certainly did. And she was completely playing on their level. Such a great actor.
It was a kind of interesting casting because writing that role, it was one of my favorite characters, but we knew she wasn't as showy as Stellan's character or Renata's character, so she could just become the boring one, And so Inga, when she came in, she didn't just solve that problem. She kind of elevated the writing to, I think, make that character. When I watch the film now, she's the heart of the film. She's the glue that keeps that family together, and you feel it. You feel her love for the other characters in a way that you can't write that.
Yeah, no, it's sure that's what I was getting at earlier. Just her eyes watching these other people. It says so much of what the narrative of the movie is. I want to ask you guys about like one of my favorite scenes in the film, the scene with the cinematographer. What you guys are trying to do with that scene.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm looking at you, Maria. During like when the budget kind of starts to go up, and everyone's like, "What can we cut?" That scene came up so much because
well, I always think that it's one of those things where like people, particularly producers, say like, if you can lift a scene and it doesn't affect the scene before, it doesn't affect the scene after, like, well then it says you're going to cut it in the opinion room anyway. And you're like, no, but it's my favorite scene.
It's my favorite scene, and I kind of made it shrink more and more, like let's just do it, because it was one of my favorite scenes, and I just felt, and Joachim, you agree, it's one step, logically, it's one step too far removed from the father and the daughters, which is like the focus of the film. At the same time, that's the moment when he realizes how old he is, and it's the end of his life, and this will be his last film, and he can't make it the way he's used to making the films. He's gotten older, and he realizes all this, and also he sees an example of another man who lived his life a bit like he has, who is alone in his fancy house and has no relation to his son. So that scene is like a 2-page scene, but it does so much for us, and I'm so happy we all decided to keep it and that you like it now.
I have to say, Marcus, because you equally defend the scenes, so I think in the end it'll turn out well.
You're not the bad guy.
Well, the opposite, as the film kept going a little bit over budget. We got there.
I want to talk about your use of music in movies because I think it's so. It's how Ashby level needle drop in it.
Wow, thank you.
Like, unbelievable how you just always seem to find the right song at the right time. And I know you guys listen to music as you write. And how do you end up? Are you adding the music that you're listening to as you guys are hanging out in the office? Like, oh my God, same old scene.
Sometimes, yeah. Tara Callier, we played in the writing room, Larry Karaszewski. We always listen to some New Order and Roxy.
Yeah, I mean, we part of the ritual of starting a new project, even not knowing what it is to begin a playlist. You know, then I go, this is the playlist for film 6, or it's the 6th film we wrote the feature. Yeah, we did it together. Yeah. And then we start adding songs, a bit of Harry Nilsson, a bit of this, a bit of that. And then things kind of build. And sometimes I remember for Worst Person was a moment like, oh, this Art Garfunkel cover of Waters of March, this should be the end scroll, so that happens. And in the first scripts we did, we actually wrote in the script some of the songs we wanted. But now, I mean, for this, I don't think we did that for anything. I think it's more like some of the things we listened to, Joachim found a place for in the edits, and some other songs, of course, came in.
So what we do is we have music supervisor, and we have a list of, how many? 50?
Yeah.
Yeah, that we need cleared before the editing starts. And then Martin, who's a wonderful musician, and he's German, can you please not have more songs, right? And then we add another 20, oh, they're so good, let's try this as well. So, great support there.
We actually bonded over music. When I first met him, I walked over and I said, this was years ago now, I was like, you're a genius. Todd Rundgren. We talked for 10 minutes about Todd Rundgren. We have time for just a couple questions. Is there somebody? Yes, second row. You did it first.
Oh, thanks. Love your films. Thank you so much. The first time seeing this film, I really love the way that you use that house as sort of just everything about the family. My question was, the crack that you see sort of in the very beginning, when you were writing that moment in that, I guess it's the narrator speaking the story, what was going through your mind at that scene? Because it's very powerful, because it goes back and forth throughout the entire movie. Seeing that moment kind of reflects on just sort of how fragile family is, that it can break at any moment, but it can also be repaired.
If you can't hear in the back, it's about the crack in the house and the house as a character. You can talk a little bit about that.
I mean, the thing about the opening of the film is, and I think we like this a bit, is to have almost a sort of childish formal approach to making movies. And since we're speaking through an essay written by a 12-year-old, it gives us some leeway to expose the metaphors and kind of turn them around a bit, because she also reflects on how she avoids describing the arguments of the parents and calls it noise and all these things. So we thought the crack was mostly interesting because she uses it as a metaphor to try to, in her 12-year-old mind, to kind of talk about something which is kind of undefinable and difficult, which is how we work creatively since we're children. But then Eskil came up with this beautiful idea that she was thinking about house falling apart in a different time perspective, as if it's super slow motion so we don't feel it. And that was kind of an illustration of a notion we had that the house represents also a gaze of time onto human lives early to establish a theme of how quickly human life goes. Like as a kid, I watched documentaries about animals having different perception of time. Like an elephant thinks we move very quick, and a fly thinks we move very slow, and stuff like that. So just that childish notion. I think you wrote this piece about the time.
Yeah, like that. It's slow motion crumbling of the house, and in that kind of motion, people move in and out and live and die. In that movement. We were actually looking for with the house something to compare to the short lifespans of people, you know, that we're looking for something. Before we found the house, we were looking for something that we just put next to a normal life and give us like a bird's eye view of how short our lives are. And then suddenly that house came up, and that was perfect for us. And I think like The Crack is also, you know, I think one of the most violent scenes in the films is when the house is redone after it's sold. At the end, it's like terrible to see that. But at the same time, I understand the father who got like when Stella's character shows the house finger and I think it's good for them to move on as well. You know, it's sad that they can't, but it's the burden of the family history as a bad thing as well as a good thing. You know, and that's also I think part of The Crack. You know, it's not a perfect thing. Families.
Somewhere. Yes, you.
Hi. Oh, sorry.
Then you go next.
The scene where the description where she goes into the room, closes the door, and you never see her, only the sound. Did that come from watching the 7 Victims? The scene that you never see her, only hear the sound of the chair falling.
The idea of that or the actual ending?
No, the actual ending. No, the ending he proposes.
Yeah.
Did that come from the VHS of Val Luton's The 7 Victims?
And if you were influenced by Val Luton's The 7 Victims.
I know the film.
Get very specific.
Is that the Ursula Andress running around?
That's a different seven.
No, that's the
10th victim.
The 10th victim. So,
Okay, which one is this? Val Luton.
Val Luton's Mark Robson. That's the ending of the film.
I haven't seen that one. I'm ashamed to admit.
You're ripping
This
off
is
stuff.
exciting, sir. You will have to see it.
You will all add to our better minds.
No, I'm afraid we disappoint you here. We're not as cineasts as we wish right now.
Okay, yes.
That's no, because I was kind of puzzled there.
Yes, I was exactly the thing I was thinking about you. Yes. The last question here. Make it a good one. Come on.
Hi. I'm just wondering, do you have any other creative pursuits that feed into your writing and your directing, or like
Very good
things that
question.
you get inspired doing?
Do you have any other creative pursuits? Like,
I don't know if it's creating. I'm a DJ. I've been that. It's an ongoing midlife crisis. So I cling on to that.
do you still skateboard?
No, not so much skiing more. It was like snow this winter. The moment we left for LA, there was a snowstorm. But now I'm here, so I better take up surfing or something.
Ladies and gentlemen, these amazing